see, there was a question. What do you do during meditation when you can let the thought go by on the memory train, but there's emotional residue left over? What do you mean by emotional residue? What is that? How does that manifest for you? Oh, like a sad feeling. Oh, okay. So, so the way that I teach it is you allow that feeling to just pass through you. So you're not gonna. It's the same thing as you would with thoughts. It's the same thing with thoughts and emotions. So the feeling is another train. So it's basically like you have that initial memory train. You have that initial thought or memory, and then you have the emotional residue of the sad feeling. So just think of it as another train that got hooked onto that first train, and so you're just letting it pass by. It's the same thing, same process of just observing it and letting it be. Don't. I'm not one who likes to analyze things. I'm not an archaeologist in terms of past wounds and traumas and memories and stuff. I'm not a big proponent of that. It's helpful to a certain extent, and then at a certain point, it gets to be a little bit. You've done enough digging, so I'm much more of a future-oriented approach. Okay, cool, great question. All right, so let me go to my notes now. Casey, Heather, you're in Discord. I'm gonna close that window, otherwise it's gonna beep at me. All right. What are we doing today? What are we doing today, ladies? Oh, we're doing day 2. Okay, so welcome back to day 2 of the Glow Up Challenge. If you'd like to share your experience with the meditation yesterday, or if you have any questions about yesterday, feel free to pop them into the chat. That would be awesome. And then I think everyone has their chat set to everyone. Yeah, just make sure if you can look at your chat, make sure it's set to everyone and not hosts and panelists. So this way, if it's to everyone, then everyone can see your question, and I don't have to copy and paste over, which would be great. Okay, so firstly, I want to acknowledge that it's entirely normal and it's expected to experience a wide range of emotions, including moments of stress and negativity. It comes with a whole basket full of emotions, and that's okay because that's part of the human experience. And you don't want to deny those emotions, those negative emotions, right? And yesterday's meditation was a way for you to recognize that there's nothing inherently bad about having negative thoughts, negative emotions, negative memories. They're just energy, just like positive thoughts or emotions. You are the ones that are labeling them as bad or negative, or other people are labeling them as bad or negative, and then you're taking them on. You're taking that label on yourself. So that is something that people are doing. The thoughts, the emotions, the memories in and of themselves don't have any meaning or any value but what you assign to them. And I want to make that very crystal clear, because when you really understand that, and that's when you can master your emotions, you can manage your emotions, and you can become very deliberate and very intentional with what you want to create for your life. But you have to understand that it's just energy. There's nothing inherently bad, inherently negative about them. So if you remove the judgment and the labeling of these negative emotions, then they become and they serve as indicators of how you feel about your situation as they relate to your desired state, as they relate to the outcome that you want. So the more negative you feel, the further away you are from what you want, from your desire. The more positive you are, the more aligned or closer you are to your desire. The feelings themselves are neutral. And I'm going to say this again, they're just energy. That's it. There is no meaning to them other than what you assign them. So what has a certain meaning to you, like a memory will have a certain meaning to you, it can be completely different to someone else. And I see this all the time with like my kids. They remember certain things from their past and they interpret it a certain way. I'm like, how did they get that interpretation? I didn't experience it that way. So that's what's happening all the time with you. You're viewing your experience through your own lens. And that lens is shaped by your upbringing, by the beliefs that you have, by your parents, your primary caregivers. So it's very, very unique to you. And so what you want to be able to do is to be able to step back from the story that you're giving them. And that's very subjective based on how you choose to feel about a certain situation or person. A lot of times, granted, it may not feel like a choice at the moment, but that's because you have thought patterns that are so ingrained in you, it basically feels out of your control. So these 5 days are really to help you to rewrite that software that was installed in you by external factors such as doctors, media, social media, parents, friends, whatever you're being exposed to that's telling you something that differs from what you want. And so you have to be able to block that off and change it from the inside out. And I really encourage people to stop judging their emotions as good or bad, but rather view them as a feedback system on how aligned you are to your inner being. That's all it is. It's just feedback. And because it's feedback, it's neutral. If you look at it that way, then you can recognize that your emotional state, it's a choice. And you can decide to choose peace and happiness over stress and doubt. It may not be peace and happiness about that particular situation, but it can certainly be about something else in your life that you feel peaceful or happy about. Is it going to be easy to divert your attention when you're kind of caught up in the emotions of this particular situation? No, maybe not. Not at the beginning, because you're breaking a lot of internal patterns, but it does get easier the more that you practice it. So and I use this analogy quite a bit. It's like you're standing in front of a buffet table, and then you're complaining about the food that you don't like, the food that you're allergic to, the food that you just don't have a taste for. And you're complaining about that rather than just moving your focus just a few inches or walking over a few inches to the food that you love, because it's a buffet table. There's bound to be at least one item that you love, and you just pile your plate high with the stuff that you love. And that's essentially what you're training yourself to do this week with your thoughts, your emotions, and your memories. People have a tendency to focus on what's going wrong and allow that to poison the entire well of life. And it doesn't have to be that way. Instead, what I really encourage you to do is to focus on the majority of your life, that greater part of your life, could be like 90% of your life, that is actually going well. Because for most people, life in general, it's pretty darn good. But you have to be able to be aware of that. You have to be willing to acknowledge that. And then you have to allow that to be your focusing point on your baby journey. Because you, as I've said, you've already set the desire. So you don't have to keep focusing on, I want to have a baby, I want to have a baby. You don't need to keep repeating that. It's already set in you. Your natural state is that of happiness, it's peace, and it's relaxation. You know, if you don't believe me, you look at any newborn or very young child. We all came into this world that way. You know, they're just beings of pure joy. That's how we all came in. And so the spiritual journey that I'm so passionate about really incorporating into your baby journey is about returning to that state from which we came. And we can do that. We've just kind of forgotten. And what makes you think it's hard is your ego. Your ego is shaped by society. It's shaped by those who raised you, your teachers, your religion, media, social media, doctors. Everything outside of you forms your ego. They're molding it like a lump of clay. It is a human construct. We don't come in with an ego. We come in with pure, unconditional love. And that's what we feel in a newborn. That's what we feel in young children, is that love. And we all came that way. And that's why you have to remember that part of you and be willing to let your ego die. And it's a painful death. It can be a very painful death because your ego wants to control how your life unfolds. and when it's going to happen. And I often think of the ego as a child. It loves to throw a temper tantrum. It loves to throw a hissy fit when it doesn't get what it wants. And that hissy fit shows up as anger, frustration, resentment, fear, doubt, anxiety, you name it. That's how, when the ego is acting up, that's how it shows up. And you have to be really aware of that. That is not the pure essence of you. That's not who you are. You don't attribute those emotions, those feelings, and those state of beings to young children in general, because it's not innate in us. It's learned, honestly. So it is that egoic part of you that has been conditioned by society. And so that pure essence of who you are and the egoic part of you, typically there's a huge difference. It's like a Grand Canyon difference in terms, it does not align at all. And so you have to be willing to let go of that part of you. You don't need to let go of your desires. I want to emphasize that again, but you do need to let go of your ego. And that is painfully hard for us, me included. So that's, we're all working on that. There's no such thing as perfection. It's a journey of releasing the ego, of not letting it take control, not letting it be in the driver's seat, be in the back so that it's on call if needed. It's great for logic and analyzing and processing information, but that's about it. It shouldn't run your life. And that's what we allow it to do, is run our life. So yesterday we talked about how letting go is important to your baby journey. And I had you do the train meditation to observe your thoughts. Something else to consider about thoughts is that they're not actually always yours alone. It could be that you're picking up the thoughts of the collective energy. So if you're in an environment that's fear-driven, you're going to be more likely to have fear-based thoughts. We saw this on prominent display during the COVID lockdown. The narrative was so fear-based. It was so limited. It was really extremely difficult to not get sucked into it. And, I have more awareness than other people about that. And I was like, it is really tough. So, you have to be aware of the environment that you're in. But if you take yourself out of that situation, then you plop yourself on a beautiful beach on a tropical island, you're taking a leisurely swim, and you have a drink with an umbrella in it next to you, there's no collective fear to connect to in that state. So that's what I mean, is that those thoughts aren't always necessarily yours. On that island, taking that swim, you're at a frequency of peace and calm. So you're going to tend to have those types of thoughts. Or going back to the octopus that I mentioned yesterday, we're all part of the whole. So we will feel what the collective feels. It's very subtle. Well, maybe not so subtle. Maybe for some people it's not so subtle, but for others it will seem subtle, and you won't really always know the difference. As you become more aware of your thoughts, then you'll be able to kind of tell a little bit more where it's like truly your thoughts versus the collective. So if you're surrounded, and I bring this up because if you're surrounded by people who doubt you and your ability to have a baby, some of those thoughts that you have may not even be your own. And that's why you need to be able to observe them with detachment, because number one is you don't want to take it on as your own story, and make it part of your identity. So today we're going to dive in a little deeper and layer in another component to your meditation, and that's visualization. When it comes to manifesting a baby, you really want to have a clear understanding of your desires, and therefore your destination is critical. It's essential. It's important. It's non-negotiable. You got to have that locked in. And it's because you need to stay focused on where you're going. This seems really obvious, but in practice, it actually gets really fuzzy. Because what often happens is that the desire for the baby, it's crystal clear in the beginning, right? It's a very pure desire that's born out of love. But then this journey kind of stretches on and drags on. It becomes much longer than you expect it to be. And then the doubt starts sinking in, right? Then you start focusing on the baby's not here. The fact that it's just, where is it? So the absence of the baby becomes the focus. And then you have thoughts like the baby isn't here. When am I going to get pregnant? How am I going to get pregnant? So focusing on creating baby and focusing on baby not being here, they're two different things that have their own frequencies. It's like two different radio stations, going back to the radio metaphor yesterday. They're completely different things. The focus on the not having a baby, it is just as a real thing and destination as the baby. You have to be very clear about that and understand that, because what often happens is people kind of think about this a little bit and then they start sliding into this area and they don't realize it, that they're focused on the lack and the scarcity. And this is where fear is. Fear is not here. So, what I'd like for you to do is look back at your life and think about the things that you've manifested. It could be your career, partner, relationships, house, travel, whatever it is. They came out of a desire to create something. It's not from a place of lack. It's because you wanted something. So when you wanted a job or a career, you went out to look for one. You didn't obsess about how it wasn't there. If you did, you probably noticed how it made it worse, how you felt really stressed and anxious about when's the job coming, right? You didn't obsess about how, so it's the same with your partner. When you're ready for a lifelong relationship, you showed up when you opened yourself up to it and you said, you're ready. I'm ready for a partner. And then for those of you who were worried about not attracting a partner, then that thinking probably made it worse and more of a struggle. In the same way, you must focus on the baby and not the absence of the baby. It's a subtle distinction, but when you truly understand it, it's going to completely change your entire approach, because you're no longer coming from lack, but rather going towards what you want. So I really want to emphasize that point. You have to move yourself back into the purity of your vision, the love, the joyful anticipation, the hope, and you stay there no matter what the current circumstances are. So there will be resistance for some of you when you visualize success or think about being successful. And it's to protect yourself because you want to keep it realistic and you don't want to get disappointed. The problem is that if you don't open your heart up to the possibility and be willing to entertain that vision with enthusiasm and joyful anticipation, that creative energy, it's completely blocked. So just as a thought exercise, I would like you all to think about those times in your life where you were able to overcome your doubts, to really fully open your heart to the possibility of something that you thought was out of reach, and then you were able to get it. Was there a time like that in your life? And if there was, if you don't mind sharing that in the chat, that would be really lovely. I would appreciate that. Now let me read this comment. Oh, the radio station acknowledging. You're welcome. That's one of my go-tos is the radio station, because I think that's actually the most accurate way of, most precise way of explaining what it is that we're trying to do with energy and in manifestation. So you're welcome. So does anyone have anything that they want to share in terms of what they were able to manifest when they opened their heart? And when they had like significant doubts? Let's see what else. I really like the buffet table. That's one of my favorite go-tos as well. I'm very food oriented for those people who know me. So, okay. Oh, no one has anything to share in terms of looking back on their life? Come on, you guys. You're flat. Thank you. Changed careers and got laser clear about what I wanted, wrote it all down in detail, the position I wanted, and then forgot about it 5 years later. I landed in that position. Yes. Your husband, awesome. When I met my husband, I told myself I would never settle for less after 2 bad relationships, and then he became the love of my life, and that was 17 years ago. Awesome. Making my first film. Love it. Meeting my husband, moving to Switzerland, manifested my loving partner. Yeah. So you want to look back as much as possible in terms of like how you manifested the important things in your life. And truly, a lot of it was for many of you, if not almost all of you, there are going to be a lot of times where it was when you just trusted in it and then you let it go. Right? And I know you guys, you ladies hate hearing the relax and let go part, but honestly, it's true. And so but there's a bit of a process to get to that letting go often, because you can't, it's just, oftentimes we're just too analytical and it's hard to just let go. So there's a bit of a process to it. And so the letting go part becomes more easy when you can really feel into what it is that you want and believe that the feeling of it is enough to really attract the physical manifestation. And honestly, I really encourage people to not even worry about the physical manifestation. Just enjoy the feeling of it enough and let that be all right for now. And then see where life takes you. Your husband and 3 kids, awesome. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for your participation. So your heart is connected to your uterus. Your heart is connected to your uterus. So opening your heart is going to be really important for your success. And I don't mean a superficial, I'm trying this strategy to see if it'll work, because those are just words. Because that's a Band-Aid approach to cover the deeper issues of lack of trust or belief in yourself. You have to get really honest about what the fear is and what's driving you and your actions. Is it because you're being inspired to them by your higher self, by your inner being, or are you being driven because of fear? You have to be really honest, because if you're being driven by fear, the likelihood of that path being successful is very diminished, incredibly diminished. Whereas if you're moving from inspired action, inspired doing, it just, even if it doesn't work out, it still feels amazing. Because at the end of the day, you don't really care so much about the outcome, because it's, again, going back to enjoying the journey. And that's really important. So the opening of the heart, it's a commitment to open yourself up to the entire experience of the journey, and just being okay with the contrast that comes. It's going to come. There's no way that you're ever going to not have any contrast. No way. Let me just assure you of that right now. You just have to be able to accept it and say, okay, I'm going to pick myself up and just keep going and just keep going and just keep going. And that's surrender. That's letting go. The advantage, I'm an entrepreneur, and there are many of you who are entrepreneurs. And I will say that the advantage of entrepreneurs on this journey is that we have a tremendous amount of resilience. And that's what you have to cultivate, is resilience. It's just the ability to throw a lot of crap on the wall and see if it works. Most of it won't, but you just keep throwing it and throwing it and throwing it, because you believe in yourself and you believe in your dream enough that you're going to keep going for it. That's what's resilience. And you have to cultivate that. And so and that's one thing that I really encourage all of you to actively cultivate in however way that you can. And so for me as an entrepreneur, it's very easy, because this is part of my everyday living. For those who are like housewives or 9 to 5, not so, I don't know. I don't really know so much how, but actor. Oh God, yes. Actor for sure. Rejection is part of your life. Yeah. And that cultivates resilience, right? Oh, I know what it is. You can start learning a language or start learning an instrument. Man, that's really frustrating, because it's like you want to play like this amazing piece of music, right from the start, especially as an adult. You have this expectation of like playing this, right, this intricate piece, long piece, symphony and stuff like that. And you can't right out of the gate. So you're going to have to be able to just work through that frustration. That's resilience. So you can find it in different ways by learning new skills and stuff. That's one way, actually, that just came to my mind. Anyway, the resilience is a really important part. So going back to today, I'm going to guide you into visualizing your ideal life and not getting distracted by the passing thoughts and feelings, and just allowing them to be. If you're driving or not in a good place to do it at this time, go to the recording, and that will be available later today, and do it when it works for you. If those of you who are on with me live, you can't do it because you're at work or something, just kind of go back to your work, but keep this on so that you can rejoin us at the end for wrap up, for shares or questions. Or actually, no, I'll say this. If you have any questions right now and you can't join in the meditation live, then please feel free to enter in your questions now. Otherwise, for the rest of you who can do the visualization, go ahead and get comfortable in a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, and just get settled in. Allow your body to relax and your mind to settle down. As your mind settles down and clears, there will still be thoughts that drift in. Let them drift in, and it's totally fine. Again, you want to start off with just kind of visualizing yourself, imagining yourself at a train station, on a bench. Every memory, every thought, every feeling, they're just trains that are passing by in front of you. Don't get on them. If you do happen to accidentally get on them, get off as soon as you are aware of it by bringing your attention to your breath. Your breath becomes your anchor. And so some people will use an app with a background noise like AC, like air conditioning, or a metronome, or ticking of some sort, or I don't know. I don't really feel that that's necessary. You can do that if you want to. I prefer just using the breath. It's simpler. It's easier. So as you're settling in, allow yourself to just really connect with your breath, being aware of your inhale and your exhale. Again, allowing those thoughts and those emotions, those memories to just come up and let them just roll by. As a greater part of you, that a bigger awareness of who you are just sits on the bench at the train station. And I'll give you a few moments to just kind of get settled in. Good. So what I'd like for you to do now, even if there are still thoughts that's just drifting by, that's okay. I'd like for you to wipe clean your mind's eye, that field of vision, or I guess it's not vision, what you're seeing with your eyes closed. Clear that out, wipe it clean like a blackboard or a whiteboard. It's usually dark, like black or red or something. So wipe it clean as much as you can. And then I'd like for you to visualize your ideal life. What would it look like? Where would you be? Don't put any limitations on it. Use your imagination. Allow yourself the freedom to dream it up. Give it as much detail as you'd like. Every person's different in how they visualize. Some will see static image, some will see it as a movie, others will see it as shapes, or just others can't visualize at all. So it's going to range. So whatever your experience is, be okay with it. If you're more on the end of having less visualization capacity, then use more of your imagination. What are you wearing? What are you seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, or possibly tasting as you connect with this ideal life? Who's in the scene with you? I imagine you're with your child, your partner, maybe, in your ideal home where you would ideally be living. How do you feel as you connect with this vision? How real can you make this image or movie? Can you add more details, more color? Make it brighter. Make the colors more vivid if you can. If you can't, that's totally fine. But if you have the control, make the colors more vivid. Make it bigger. So if it's occupying a portion of your inner mind's eye, of that inner screen, see if you can widen it out and fill out the entire field. So make it bigger. Can you bring it closer to you? If it seems a little bit distant, can you bring it more close to you? Are you seeing yourself as third person? Or like you have another version of you in that scene? So can you merge so that you're one and you're seeing it from the first person through your eyes? And what does it feel like to be in this scene? What do you have a deep knowing of in this ideal image or movie? What's a belief of yours? And can you bring this knowledge, this belief, these feelings back with you into your everyday life? To be able to connect with the energetic manifestation of it before the physical reality. So I'd like for you to slowly come back to me. If you're in that person, step out of the person. Let that image drift off. Thank yourself for showing yourself that future version, that future vision. And then let it float away. And then you bring yourself back to me. So you want to practice this meditation until it feels really natural. Like it's a given that it will happen. And that's the point where it really needs to be. Where it feels really embodied within you, not like some distant dream far off. Because the more you feel separate from it, the farther it is you feel from it, the harder it is to bring it in. You have to feel like it's almost there or it's here. And that's why the visualizations are so powerful, because it allows you to tap into the feeling state of it. The thing about any experience that you want, any relationship that you want, is you're really after the emotional experience of it, that feeling state. Because if I gave you like a 8-pound robotic baby that's installed with AI and would poop and eat and stuff like that, it wouldn't be the same. It's that emotional experience that you're looking for. And you want to connect with that emotional experience in order to manifest the physical. So most people are doing it the opposite, the reverse way where they're waiting for the physical in order to feel the emotional. And that's often really hard to manifest with, because your life basically is on hold until you reach that emotional, until you have that physical state. So you reverse the process by feeling it first and getting comfortable with it. So if you're more prone and likely to kind of reject pregnancy pictures or mentions of babies, that's blocking what you want because you're not inviting that in, to be perfectly honest. You have to welcome that in. You have to want to love playing with babies, and it's like being in that feel of it. You can't distance yourself away from it and then expect it to come. It just won't, it's not going to happen. So the visualization helps to kind of soften that resistance and the blocks, because the more you practice it, then the more it just trains your mind and body to accept it as a natural state. You're basically priming the pump is what you're doing. And so I would highly recommend that you do that until it just becomes very embodied within you. And it would be method acting for you actors out there. It's basically method acting. You're embodying it first before it comes in so that it actually comes in. And that's how you become a magnet to the experiences that you want. That's how you manifest intentionally and consciously. Any questions about that? Anyone want to share what they experienced during the visualization? Let's see what else. That's it for today. I'll send out a link to the recording and also to the Discord. Love to see you there. Share your experiences. Anything? Nope. Going once, going twice. See you tomorrow. Awesome. All right. So if there are no questions, then I'll just see you all tomorrow. Have fun with the visualization. Do it again. Oh, you know what? I would recommend that you do this right before you go to sleep, because it's a really great way to drift off to sleep. You bring that visualization into your dream state. I would really highly recommend that. You're welcome. All right. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye, everyone.